I wanna go.
Now, it's no secret that I'm an Alfa aficionado. So when someone rings me up and offers me a drive in probably the most desirable Alfa Romeo ever, naturally, I was there in a nanosecond. One of the stars of the show is this delectable Alfa Romeo 2900B. Now, I could wax lyrical about how this is the ultimate pre-war sports car, how Alfa 29s came first, second and third in the 1938 Mille Miglia, how it's got a straight-eight engine with twin superchargers, how it's totally unique and has been acclaimed as among the 7 most desirable cars in the world. But all that would take too long, because what I really want to do is just drive it.
This is a story about unconditional love. How one man wanted the best Alfa Romeo in the world, found it and rebuilt it with a passionate devotion. This 2900B started life in 1937 as a racing car, was rebodied in 1940 by Pininfarina, bought by an American serviceman in 1947 and then completely disappeared. Rumours circulated that the engine was the only part of the car that survived, and it was in New Zealand. Strenuous efforts were made to chase the 29B, but all leads turned cold. Then, 42 years later, out of the blue came a call from California. The car still existed, original and complete apart from that missing engine. Every badge, every hubcap, every piece of trim was still there unmolested. The 2900B was indeed immortal.
Glorious, stirring sight, the very poetry of motion. But because I'm a mercenary bloke, because I have an unhealthy interest in money, the thing which interests me, nay, fascinates me about this particular motor car is its insurance valuation. It is currently insured for £2.5 million. Which forces me to pose the overwhelming question. What is it that makes this car, or indeed any car, worth a 7-figure sum, the price of a small island in the Caribbean? What is it that elevates the antique motor to the province of fine art?
Actually, it's rarity, provenance, originality and fashion, but the real answer is that this car is unique and one of the most beautiful machines in the world. Like a Gauguin, a Cézanne or a Monet, it is a thing of beauty and a joy forever. But we don't all know good taste when we see it, do we, Jeremy?
So, no taste, eh, Quentin? And not much musical ability either, but I do know an awful car when I see one, and I'm looking at one right now. You remember in Dallas that dreadful chrome Corvette-based thing that Mark Grayson used to drive? Well, this is even worse. It used to belong to that shy and mysterious chap, Liberace, who had his name painted on the spare wheel covers and on the wind deflectors. And then he had candelabras nailed everywhere else. It rather looks as though he spent £1 million on the thing at Woolworths. No, I really mustn't be too harsh. After all, Liberace was a serious musician behind all the kitsch. You never know. There may be a half-decent car under here somewhere. As a matter of fact, there is. If you peel off the plastic body, the Draylon frock, underneath you'll find a Ford Mustang complete with a 5-litre V8 engine. But because they've elongated it, they've managed something pretty special, almost unique. It really is as nasty to drive as it is to look at. In fact, the only motoring journalism award it's likely to win is the Big is Best category, a classic case of never mind the quality, feel the length. Remember, he used to drive it around Las Vegas, and if you're competing for attention out there with the likes of the Excalibur Hotel, you need something pretty striking. A metro wouldn't do. And anyway, I'm fairly sure, no, I'm absolutely positive that Rover does not offer candelabra as an option on the metro. Now, this may look pretty daft in the English countryside, but against a Vegas backdrop, it's as civilized as afternoon tea. Liberace's car, it's called a Zimmer by the way, will be at the show, so why not go along and see what you think? Even if you hate it, you're unlikely to send the great man spinning in his grave. As he famously said to one critic, "What you said really hurt me. I cried all the way to the bank."
Some people who definitely will be going to the show are the winners of last week's mystery car competition. They all correctly identified the infamous DeLorean.
Well, that completes our mystery classic car competition. All our winners have by now received their complimentary tickets to the show. Now, obviously, we'll be at the show, so if you can't make it yourself, tune in to next week's programme and we'll have full coverage. You can book your tickets for the Top Gear Classic and Sports Car Show by calling 021 780 4133. And that number will be repeated at the end of the programme. And a reminder that the show is at the NEC in Birmingham from this Saturday to Monday, and it'll be open between 10 and 6.
And for those who entered our last rally competition, the year in which all this happened was 1973. And congratulations to our lucky winners.
Round 2 of the Mobil won Top Gear British Rally Championship, the Pirelli International, running through the infamous Kielder Forest. For Ford's Malcolm Wilson, this was a chance to improve his championship hopes after mechanical problems dogged his Escort first time out. Here he stormed away from the opposition on the early stages. Likewise, young Richard Burns had a point to prove and was determined to show everyone that his win on the first round was no flash in the pan.
Fast right to junction 98.
There are no team orders in the Subaru camp, and it's a matter of best man wins. Alistair McRae in the second car was driving fast but untidily, leaving the Top Gear helicopter to clean up after him. Stephen Finlay from Northern Ireland was a surprise third on round 1 and a serious contender here, driving an identical car to Wilson's. Gwyndaf Evans conquered the Group N section on the first outing in his native Wales, but his smooth style of driving was taming Kielder. Evans, in fact, overtook David Llewellyn, the leading two-wheel drive exponent in the Vauxhall Astra. Llewellyn losing time because of fairly serious mechanical problems.
I lost the brakes just 1 mile into that stage.
What, total loss of brakes?
Total loss of brakes, yeah, nothing at all. Broke a rear pipe off and all the fluid came out, and that was it, no brakes at all. So I just had to go very steady and use the gears to slow down, and so we lost quite a lot of time going through there. We just drove through like a Sunday run and was glad to see the finish.
Kielder in warm sunlight is practically unheard of, and every man and his dog were there to watch as Wilson put in blistering times over the razor-sharp rocks. After his earlier efforts to restyle the Subaru and Kielder, Alistair McRae pushed himself to take second fastest on this stage with brilliant controlled driving. Now it was the turn of the other Subaru to encounter problems in the handling department. Subaru have the biggest service team in the championship. The mechanics fussing over their young drivers like mother hens.
What are we doing?
It's the bearings gone.
For rally mechanics, a new wheel bearing is small beer, and the lads were soon on their way. For Cumbrian Malcolm Wilson, the home ground of Kielder was being kind for once, and he and Brian Thomas were a full minute ahead of Burns at the end of day 1. They looked to be heading for a textbook win. But Richard Burns was hot on his heels, showing the sort of controlled, aggressive driving one would expect of someone twice his age. In standard Group N rally cars, the gearbox is always the first bit to give trouble. And sure enough, Gwyndaf Evans suddenly found he'd no third gear. He very nearly found he'd no car.
Oh. Well done. 8 right, down to tight 9 left.
As in every other sport, people have good days and bad. For Llewellyn, this was a bad one. After his earlier brake problems, a rock damaged the Astra's suspension and he was overtaken by Johnny Milner's Audi on the last stage of the day. Llewellyn retired, leaving Chris Birkbeck to take the Formula 2 lead, which he maintained to the end, showing that he could still pedal with the best despite a 2-year layoff from the sport. In another Astra, a remarkable story, with Dick Archer leading his class by 6 minutes at the end of the first day. Dick, disabled since childhood, has no fingers to aid his grip on the wheel and had to struggle to get a special competitor's licence. This amazing man works tirelessly to encourage more disabled people into the sport and can't understand why he's one of only 3 disabled drivers rallying.
One right.
After 4 long stages, it was a return to Carlisle for an overnight halt, with Wilson well and truly in control.
Well, it's 8 o'clock on a wet, blustery Sunday morning. Behind me, £2 million worth of rally cars that have been safely stored overnight at this truck stop. Now, there's only one question this morning. Can Malcolm Wilson, after his good night's rest, keep out of trouble as the rally goes for its 2nd dose of Kielder Forest?
Well, the answer was no. Within a few miles of crossing Hadrian's Wall and into the first stage of the day, the Escort was in the wars. In rallying, you never know what's round the next corner, but Burns liked what he saw here and realised his chances of a win were improving dramatically. So, what had gone wrong?
The alternator went down. I don't know whether it took in some water or something like that on the stage in one of the things, and it damaged the inside of the alternator. So it wouldn't even run. It was just, you know, coughing and banging, and managed to get out the stage, but obviously we've lost about 5 minutes.
Fortune was smiling on Burns this morning, a conveniently placed post helping him stay on the track. There was no such luck for McRae. He flew off into a large Kielder ditch and he never got out. Dark Horse Finlay had now got the hang of his first rally in a left-hand drive car and had got the Escort up into 2nd place. All rally drivers make mistakes sometimes. The good ones, like Group N leader Gwyndaf Evans, pick the right place to do it. Wilson was back in business and flying to get back up the leaderboard and keep his championship hopes alive. Teammate Robbie Head certainly didn't want to get under his feet in his Group N car. Dougie Watson-Clark from Carlisle was having a trouble-free drive, his local knowledge helping him to hold 4th place. Just when you think an event is signed and sealed, rallying can deliver that sudden surprise. The results were reshaped by the significant retirement of Malcolm Wilson's teammate Stephen Finlay from 2nd place. This was great news for Wilson, now in 3rd place, but too far behind Gwyndaf Evans to hope for anything better. His championship hopes looked to be diminishing. But strange things happen in works-owned cars. Gwyndaf Evans is about to make a surprising and very sporting gesture to Malcolm Wilson near the end of the final stage. He and co-driver Howard Davies do a very odd thing. One has to ask why. Team orders, perhaps. Ford said not.
Half a mile. Trips got 14:48. Stages 14.
He dramatically parked his lower-powered Group N Escort and waited.
I'll count 22 seconds as he goes by.
And waited.
He's got to be 1 minute and 22 off.
Malcolm Wilson in his Group A Ford Escort swept into 2nd place.
32, go on, you're all right, just poodle along. And when he gets to 32, he'll be 1 minute and...
Some said that if this was horse racing, there'd be a steward's inquiry into the whole affair. But none of these peculiar and in some eyes questionable happenings should detract from a magnificent win by Richard Burns and Robert Reed with a margin of nearly 6 minutes.
From the outside it looks all a bit simple because we won this by about 4 minutes or something, but it's probably been one of the toughest rallies I've done because up to about a couple of hours ago we were certainly very much under pressure, but fortunately it's come right.
So at least for one of the top teams, the Pirelli International was all sweetness and joy.
Next week we're off to the Top Gear Classic and Sports Car Show. The dedicated enthusiasts who give their lives to their cars and driving the most classic car of them all.